play right, cause they can't miss. All about the game, that's a cold switch. Serving up the truth, call it ruthless. Tune in and get your fix from Blake and Vish Sports.
Is just, we can each name, I want to hear who you think, Fish, is one coach on the hot seat right now that you think is going to be gone maybe before the end of the season.
So I think the obvious answer everybody points to for this question is Brian Flores. And you put me on the hot seat by asking me this question, right? And it's easy to just say Brian Flores. And I think it would be a fair answer, but I'm actually going to go with Urban Meyer. I think Urban Meyer should be the coach on the hot seat. Look, I know that they're trying to build something in Jacksonville, and they don't have a lot of talent. They didn't inherit a roster with a lot of talent. Trevor Lawrence is pretty amazing. You have to look beyond the numbers and actually watch him play, especially the last 4 or 5 weeks. He's been really, really good. Where it looks like Jacksonville has a franchise quarterback for sure. But I just look at Urban Meyer. I go back to the situation he had. That was so weird with him not traveling with the team, and then being caught in 4K doing things that I mean, live your life, Urban. It's just a bad look for a leader of an organization. And then I thought his presser after it, a little bit, I didn't feel like he took accountability that well for his actions. He was just saying it's stupid, blah, blah, blah. But I felt like he had no presence. I felt like he was embarrassed, but I didn't think he represented himself that well, in my opinion. After that position, I just feel like, look, Jacksonville has got such a talented quarterback. There's so many assets available for Jacksonville. There's a great opportunity to build this team up. And the worst thing for them to do is allow Urban Meyer to be the one to build it up and then find out 4 years from now that he's not suited for the NFL and he's not that good of a coach, and screw Trevor Lawrence that way. I think they're better off. Nobody wants to fire a coach after 1 year. It's not good practice in the NFL. But to me, you have to get this right, and you have to get this right in terms of building around Trevor Lawrence over these couple years, so you can maximize him in year 3 and year 4 on the rookie contract. I understand that it's been better for Jacksonville. They won the game in London. The Seattle game was rough. A lot of people put that on Trevor Lawrence. I personally didn't think he was that rough in that game. I'd have to go Urban Meyer, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. He has to be either on the hottest seat or like the second hottest seat right now. I think one thing too is just the whole draft with, I don't know if he wanted ETN or someone else wanted ETN, but I'm assuming it's he wanted ETN.
So he wanted Tony, and he publicly said he wanted Tony. Tony was taken by the Giants, so then they settled for ETN to kind of play that similar role in their offense.
Yeah, so that whole situation to me is still, I can't get over that. I simply cannot get over that. I know James Robinson is not a top 5 running back. I know his stats may be a little overinflated because he gets pretty much every snap at running back. But that was, going into the draft, that was the one position besides the quarterback they drafted where they kind of had it relatively figured out. They had a cheap rookie running back who they got undrafted, and he played really well for them. And they took a running back in the first round when they have holes all over their roster. That I cannot forgive them for. And I get they wanted a playmaker on offense, but there were so many receivers available. There's so many good defensive players available that could help fill their roles. I feel like any other position I could have understood outside of kicker, punter, and maybe long snapper. Outside of those, running back was like the next position you don't draft. So that for me is still mind-boggling. And then back even on James Robinson, why is Carlos Hyde getting so many carries? The first couple of weeks, Carlos Hyde was out snapping or getting more carries than Robinson. That also confuses me. I know you mentioned earlier the whole situation not going back with the team. That's rough. I just don't know at what point do you say, like, we just need to cut ties with them. I feel like even before the end of the season wouldn't be the worst. I feel like grabbing one of these young, maybe go grab Kellen Moore. Joe Brady he's been looked down upon a little bit because they've struggled this year. But even him, like, take a flyer on him. You got to do something else because it just doesn't seem like Urban Meyer is going to be the guy. And he just doesn't seem like a leader that you would want as a head coach. in the NFL today.
Yeah, I don't even think they should go the young offensive coordinator route because
Mm,
Jacksonville has struggled for so many years. I think what they need is somebody to instill a culture and a winning, mantra and mentality, and somebody that can lift an organization
mm,
the way like a Jim Harbaugh or John Harbaugh or Mike Tomlin, guys, who
Rivera.
Mike Tomlin is obviously excellent at the X's and O's, but it's also them as people. They're such powerful people. They can uplift everybody around him. Urban
Mm,
Meyer technically is supposed to be like that, right? That's what he did in every college stop that he was at, from Bowling Green to Ohio State. The issue is that I don't feel like he's doing that in Jacksonville.
no.
I don't feel I feel like he's in over his head. I feel like recruiting was really what he did well in terms of creating culture. And I mean, of course, the culture he created was always on flimsy pick holdings everywhere he was, because it used to come way apart and crumble within 3 4 years, and
Yeah.
you would see a lot of terrible things happening with each and every one of the places he's been in. Everybody knows those details. I don't want to get into them now. The Ohio State situation was ugly. You go with Florida and look at all the character issues that was on the team
Mhm.
and the things they got away with Urban Meyer as the coach. I mean, it's not good, but that's really what stuns me. Like, what is he building? Like, what is sustainable about what Jacksonville does? This guy's out here talking about getting 200 rush yards, 200 pass yards, which I don't even think is feasible for Ohio State if they played, Indiana in the Big Ten tomorrow. So I don't know how you expect to
Yeah.
do that in the NFL on a week to week basis. I don't know what the culture is that he's building. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if he has enough cachet to get the right coaching staff for Trevor Lawrence. Brian Schottenheimer, Darrell Bevel, they've not done terribly this year, but we've seen how that experiment went in Seattle with each of them with Russell
Mhm.
Wilson. It's
Not good.
not the most schematically advanced and creative and benefit your young quarterback type offense. I, I would go a different route. I actually like the suggestion of Kellen Moore. I think he's fantastic. Joe Brady, I've never as much bought the hype. I think we've talked about him a little bit. I said I
Mhm.
think he runs a good system, but I think his play calling lacks a bit of creativity. Though I think people coming down on him this year is a little bit extra because he is handicapped by I'm joking. He's not handicapped by Sam Darnold, but a lot of people don't
It's
want to
hard,
put
yeah.
blame on Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's not a very good quarterback. That's just what it is. He's not very good. And so um I guess you could go Joe Brady. Maybe I think Dayball is also a bit overrated. If he can bring Josh Allen with him to every one of those spots, I'm sure he'd be fantastic. But they got to get. I think they do got to go get someone else, and they got to make sure they get the right guy.
And maybe you're right, and maybe they do try to get in someone like Urban who does have experience, who's supposed to be more of like that motivational leader, like guys that come to mind. Jim Caldwell with the Lions, he seemed one of those guys who was just a good leader. Ron Rivera
And
is kind of that
he's a good
staple
play caller
guy.
too.
Yeah, Ron Rivera is that staple guy who's like strong personality and all that. Maybe there's someone like him that like those two guys or like the idea of Urban Meyer was supposed to be that they could bring in and try to, maybe not be the most, I don't know, have the best X's and O's coach, but they have someone who is a good leader and can kind of rally the troops when things get tough.
Agreed.
Definitely. So that's the hot seat. So you had Urban Meyer. We didn't talk about mine, but mine was real quickly. I would say Zimmer. I would say Mike Zimmer of the Vikings. I think he's got to be on the hot seat at this point. They've kind of been
That's
underperforming, and I don't know. Something has to change for the Vikings because they're too talented to have the current record that they do.